Betta. This is a game that I saw being displayed at Gen Con 2022. It looked fun, it looked interesting, and definitely looked unique. It has some components that the likes of which I had not seen before. And so I decided to give it a try. I bought a copy and recently I even played it. Hooray! I played it with my 10-year-old, so I can only comment on the two-player gameplay, but we enjoyed it, and at some point probably I'll also play it during game night as a light filler. This is a light filler, and I can already tell you in that category I really enjoyed. So what you're going to try to do is to create displays of betta fish, and you're going to put a number of cards of this card or this kind on the table at the beginning of the game, depending on the number of players. Then you're going to have these objective cards that can be scored during the game. You shuffle them, and you place a number of those out there. And the idea is that when you are forming when the card that you added during your turn, you added to a display, forms one of those patterns, you get to score it right away. So if I place a card that forms that pattern, it's 3 points. I play a card that forms that pattern, it's 5 points. And then there's going to be a final score at the end of the game based on your presence in each display. So you're gonna have, and this is when you get these components that are really unique, each player has a deck of cards, each looking like this. So each with a frame and only then showing some boxes being active. And so as you can imagine, these are a pain to shuffle them, but that's okay because you're not supposed to shuffle them. At the end of a game, you just collect them and you keep them in a stack like that. Maybe you want to cut it once, but it's unlikely that you played a game already planning how you wanted to place your fish for the next game, so that's randomized enough. And each deck is unique in that it represents one kind of fish more than the other. So this one will have a lot of orange, and the other one will have a lot of purple, and the one for the green play a lot of green, and so on and so forth. You also start already with some cards on the display, and then you're gonna have your hand of cards, and when it is your turn, very simple, you take one of your cards and you place it on a display, following the grid, don't let it stick out, just the usual stuff. If you play a card in a display that doesn't have anything yet, you immediately score 2 points, so there's a little incentive there. But again, probably in most cases you will want to try to match those patterns. To do so, of course, the pattern must be visible and must be formed by at least one square that you just put down. So if a pattern is already there and I place a card that doesn't add to that pattern, doesn't change anything in it, then it doesn't count. And suppose that I decide to play this card here as I'm talking. I'm not really looking at the strategy, so I don't know if that makes any sort of sense, and then another player plays this card here. Oh, there you go, that's a good example, because by playing that card I just formed that pattern with 3 orange, so I get to score, orange player gets to score that. I see an opportunity there for other scoring. For example, there you go, now this player places that one there, and now that formed a square, and so this player now is scoring 5. That should have been a 3, I believe. There you go, scores 5. And so that's simply the idea. But as you play, these displays become very visually interesting. Of course, you can only play to a display that is not completely full yet. And that's another important thing. Oh, this display also can score that pattern. I'm just gonna throw cards there kind of randomly just to give you a sense of what the displays look after a while. That is very pretty. They do look like full of angry fish. And who doesn't like that? So that would allow me to score that one again because I added to that pattern of that. And also we cannot add anything to that display anymore. So that's the idea. You continue until you only have 2 cards left in hand, which means you depleted your draw pile, and the game is pretty quick. If anything, maybe you will feel like, oh man, maybe I can play a little bit more. Maybe you play until everybody played every card. Why not? It's your game. You can create your own variants. So at the end, and at the end there will be displays on in the play area that will look kind of like that. Again, you should have scored those patterns during the game as you were playing the game, and later during the final scoring, you go through each display and you score for each display based on how many bettas you have. For example, for this one, purple player has 6 bettas there, and so they get to score 5 bettas. I can't count. 5 bettas, and so they score 10 points. Purple player here only has 2, and so they only score 1 point for that. 5 here for orange, 3 for orange, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, you do have an advantage in creating a concentration of bettas in each display, but there's no point in going above 6 because 7 or 8, they still are worth the same amount of points. However, if maybe I have 7 early on because then later another one is covered, and so I'm still down to 6. So there's still that. So what you have here is an extremely simple game that looks very interesting. That looks visually interesting. I just like playing with these cards, and yes, sometimes they get a little bit stuck, and so I kind of have to juggle them a little bit just to make sure that I line them up. And I don't rip them, that's the most important thing. But as you can see, not a big deal. It's okay if my hand looks a bit messy that way. So it's very unique visually, physically, materially, and I really, really like the patterns that it creates. On top of the visual interest, the gameplay is, for a filler, perfectly fine. I enjoyed every game that I played. Again, I wasn't going in looking for a super complicated game where you get to place, I mean, after all, you get to place maybe 10 cards or so. It's quick, it's simple, but there are interesting things going on. Yes, you're trying to match those patterns there, but not just about mechanically matching every pattern, because of course if I'm building up to a larger pattern, then actually it may be one missing. I put down the third one to build that one, and you get to play it, and then you get to score. And I guess then I can try to score it again and score it too, but at that point, well, you scored it first. So it's both about scoring as much as you want and try to take advantage of opportunities as they emerge, maybe not to leave opportunities for other people, and also again spamming the same spot over and over again to score a lot of points, but you're neglecting the final scoring, which again, I get to score this one twice, hooray, but if I get 6 beta in a single display, that's 15 points, that makes up for that. So you really have just, again, what we see and what we like in a lot of modern gaming, which is reasons to be interested every turn, at the same time an overarching strategy, so something to build up towards, something to create throughout the game, which would be to prepare for the final scoring. And yes, there can be surprises during the final scoring depending on how obsessed people were on maybe 1 or 2 displays, or even better, how able they were to score okay during the turn while at the same time getting a good majority, a good presence in multiple displays. So again, Betta, for a game that is very simple, it's super simple to teach because pull down a card and see if you match one of those. Super simple to teach, super simple to play, not the deepest game out there, but for a filler, it is one that plays well, plays smoothly and nicely. It is entertaining enough, and again, from the point of view of just the visual experience, I like the way it looks. So to me, that is a plus. And so again, Betta, a very light filler, but one that I personally enjoy.